rocking and rolling right now. WTIC, Todd Feinburg with you. Joining us is Rob Sampson. He's a state rep. Also, I think from Joe is down Southington way, and I think so is Rob. Is that right?
That is correct, Todd. I share Southington and Wolcott with my good and dear friend, Senator Markley.
Yeah, that's cool that you guys are so committed to each other. But he sounds very decent and fair-minded, which I don't think is called for in this conversation. And
he's the finest man in the state legislature. I can promise you that.
And you're a little more hard-hitting, so I felt the need to have you as a follow-up.
We do a lot of events together, and that's exactly right. He's the more soft-spoken and cerebral voice, and I'm the aggressor on occasion.
It says right on your website, Rob Sampson, Sampson is unwavering in his defense of conservative ideals. And anybody who follows politics knows that politicians try to hide their philosophy, even their party. They don't like it to be too visible on their website, so they try to put it on some hidden page that doesn't have a link. And you just say it right there on the About page. I like it.
I am a proud conservative and patriot, and I believe we need to get back to the principles that made this country great.
I want to talk to you about really the same conversation that I just had with the senator, and that is through your eyes, what's going on here with this union deal? Is it a cozy deal for unions, as I view it, a sweet deal, a giveaway against the taxpayers of Connecticut, or is it good for taxpayers?
So you're referring to the State Employee Union Protection Act of 2017, is the way I would characterize it, and that's exactly right. This is a deal that has to happen now because I believe the Democrats and the governor see the future, and I believe they think, and correctly so, that they are on the precipice of losing their ability to have control of the legislature in future years, and this protects their allies in the state employee unions by making sure that they can put together a deal that goes out beyond the years that they might not be in control.
Well, so you're reminding me of Rahm Emanuel when the Obama White House was coming in, and he was excited about using the financial crisis to make some changes that Democrats wanted to make, and it sounds like you're describing the same thing, that this is a crisis moment in which Democrats don't just want to push philosophy they believe in, but they want to protect their friends to make sure their friends are still getting a sweet deal on the backs of taxpayers through the bad years when Democrats might not control the legislature.
Yes, and they certainly are. I mean, anyone who looks at this deal just on its merits has to see that this is still unbelievably beneficial to the state employee unions and at the expense of the hardworking taxpayers of the state.
Explain how can that be when they're giving back $1.5 billion?
Well, I mean, I'll just list some of the things that are here. First and foremost, no layoffs till 2021. Absolute protection. I don't know anyone in the private sector who absolutely has their job protected for the next several years. There's a couple of years where their wages are frozen, but there are big bonuses that are going to be offered in 2018 to every state employee, $2,000 or more.
These are in the form of stipends, right? Just payments. Is that to hide them so that they can say there's no pay increase during those years?
I can't speak to the
motive
motivation, other than the fact that no raises for 2 years, but lump sum payments of $2,000 plus starting July 2018. And there are raises built into these agreements going forward, 3.5% per year in years 3, 4, and 5. So that's the list of the bad news. Well, there's far more. I mean, there are many things which the Republican caucuses have advocated for, eliminating longevity payments and so forth. All of those items remain and are protected going forward. The only real give-backs are in the form of minor changes to the health and pension benefits, and very minor changes, slight increases in co-pays, maybe going from $5 to $10 on medications. ER visits is like the biggest thing you see on here, that normally the copay is $35 and it would go to $250. But overall, in general, the benefits that state employees will continue to receive far outweigh anyone in the private sector. Again, as Senator Markley said, I don't begrudge any of these folks for trying to negotiate the best possible deal for themselves, but this is a special situation. The state of Connecticut is in dire straits. State employee wages and benefits make up 40% of our state budget, and I believe that ought to make up 40% of the concessions to correct our $5.1 billion deficit. And the numbers that they have claimed from this remain to be seen. I want to say trust but verify, but I don't trust. And I worry that at some point we're going to find out that they don't realize the $1.5 billion worth of savings they are claiming.
Representative Rob Sampson is with us on WTIC. We're discussing the labor deal, which it's important for people to have a place to go where they can hear what the truth of this is. And I'm happy to provide that service here, and I'm glad you can help, Rob, because you really articulate this well, and you're in the middle of things in the House. You were there yesterday for this vote, and this is a tough thing to justify, and the only way it seems possible to get it passed is to make sure that the people of Connecticut don't understand exactly what's being given away. It seems to me the only...
this information is going to come out every day, Todd. I just discovered today that some of the individual 34 contracts include lots of things that we had no indication of before today. There's a provision in some of the contracts to increase the amount of time that union stewards can work on union business on the taxpayer's dime, to go from 250 in the current or recently expired contracts to 500 hours. There are bonuses for certain employees for new hires. There are things in these individual contracts that we are going to be finding out over time. And Senator Markley had mentioned that one of the concerns was that they rushed this through before the Office of Fiscal Analysis had a real chance to review and come up with, an analysis of the savings to see if it's legitimate, or for any of us as individual legislators to have time to go read through the individual 34 contracts to know exactly what we are voting on. They just jammed it through, and consequently, they got no Republican support.
Why should there be contracts that lock the state into higher than market commitments to the state's employees?
There absolutely should not be.
Well, why are there?
Well, I believe it is a mechanism to garner support for those that create these arrangements. It's a symbiotic relationship. The unions benefit from the policies made by Democrats controlling the legislature, and they exchange the favor at election time.
In other words, they sell out voters in order to curry favor with a special interest group. And this is not an attack on state workers. I have to remember to say that, because I think it's easy for people who are sympathetic or who are state workers to see it that way. This is an attack on the corruption of the political process in order to use power and money that belong to the taxpayers of the state in order to divert funds to friends, in order to curry that favor that you refer to, Representative Sampson, to make sure they can hold on to power.
You're absolutely correct. I couldn't say it any better than that. And the thing is, I want to make sure that every one of your listeners recognizes that the folks that voted for this yesterday, and if this manages to go through the Senate, please hold each and every one of those legislators responsible and accountable for the next year, 10 years, till 2027, that mythical date in the future when we may potentially get our freedom back. But in the meantime, every tax hike, every cut to someone who needs help for their family member with disabilities, every bad thing that happens to our state economy is on the heads of the people that have locked us into this agreement. And people keep saying locked us into the future, which is absolutely true, but they're locking us into the immediate future also, which passing of this agreement it goes a long way to prohibiting us from doing the right thing now, which would be to pass the Republican alternative budget that achieves even greater savings in concessions from the state employees without locking us into an inability to make future changes.
So you were there yesterday with nobody considering budgets, and you have a perfectly good one that they won't allow to be discussed. What happened with that yesterday? Did you make any attempts to get it onto the floor?
Yes, absolutely. I've grown increasingly more and more frustrated at watching my Democratic colleagues in the legislature tell their constituents, and if you follow them on social media, you'll keep seeing them say that there's no legitimate budget being put forward, and lots of different reasons and excuses why we don't have a budget put forth without taking any direct responsibility for it. And that's very difficult to listen to when you and your friends in the Republican caucus have put together such a budget that does not raise taxes, that fully funds the towns, that does the responsible thing to get the state of Connecticut moving in the right direction. And we have been ready and willing and able to vote on it since April. And because the Democrats have a slim majority, they control the agenda and have prohibited it. So yesterday, we made two separate attempts to actually have our budget debated. No requirement that anyone has to vote for or anything, but the opportunity to at least put our budget forward and get it debated in the House of Representatives. We made two attempts yesterday, and they were both blocked on party lines.
What a surprise. Okay, I'm not ready to concede that the Senate is going to pass this next week, and I want everyone to get active right now to, get on the phones and really go after state senators to make sure that they aren't voting in favor of this union deal next week. So we'll see what happens. Rob Sampson, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
It's always a pleasure, Todd. Thank you.
All righty. Enjoy your afternoon. That's State Representative Rob Sampson.